the steering committee of Dairy Women Ireland, and this evening I'm delighted to invite Helen Doherty from Social Farming Ireland and Shirley Bateman from Cookstown in County Cork, who is a farmer for Social Farming Ireland, to join with us here in Dairy Women Ireland this evening to tell us the story of Social Farming Ireland and I suppose where the concept came from and the journey of Social Farming Ireland and what it means to be involved and what it means to the farmer and also what it means to the participants. And I've been in touch with Helen prior to this, and it's a really fascinating story. So I really hope that you enjoy. So I suppose Helen is going to give her presentation, and I'll invite people if they have any questions along the way, just to write them into the chat box. Or afterwards, when Helen is finished giving her presentation, we can ask those questions. And that'll be followed by a little bit of a slideshow from Shirley, and she's going to share her experience of how Social Farming Ireland has impacted her life and her farm. So yeah, I might just kick off there and welcome Helen to the floor. Thank you very much, Helen.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Deirdre. That's great. Delighted to be here and to, as I say, share the story of Social Farming Ireland with you all. Just bear with me now while I just make sure I have everything displayed the way I think I should have. Need to change those. Okay. We're on the proper display now, I hope, anyway. So my name is Helen Doherty and I work full-time in social farming with Social Farming Ireland, based in Leitrim Development Company. I've been about, I think, 12, almost 13 years with social farming at this point in time, probably since its infancy in the form that it is at the moment in Ireland. And certainly we were the first funded project in the country on social farming. So I'll tell you a little bit more as we go through some of the slides on this. So what is social farming? I suppose some people can often, I know in the very early days, we got a letter from somebody or an email from somebody wanting to know, could they meet other farmers through social farming? So I suppose that might be a dividend of social farming, but it's not the purpose of social farming. So the word social is used, it's an Italian word, and it really is all about social care, more so than a social, although social farming is very social as well. So it's the practice of offering ordinary family farms as a form of social support. The farms, another key value of ours is that the farms remain ordinary working farms, and they're not specialised treatment farms. And this goes back to our early days when a lot of health and social care services very, very strongly reflected back to us that they did not want day centres on farms. They wanted the ordinary farm experience. They wanted to connect with communities. They wanted a real connection to happen between the farmer and whatever person was coming out to the farm. And a place where people in need of support and people can benefit from the environment of being on that ordinary farm, engaging in ordinary activities and achieving some extraordinary things for people. And it's a great opportunity for social connection for a lot of people. The other, one of the other key values, I suppose, around social farming and around the model as we have developed it is that it's an outcome-focused support placement. So it's important to say it's a support placement. It's not a work placement. It's not work experience or anything like that. You're actually in a position that you're providing support to the people that come out to you on any given day. So you as the farmer are giving up your farming day as such. To support people on the farm using the farm environment, the ordinary activities that are available on your farm, the natural asset that is your farm, to help somebody to achieve some goals in their life. And those goals are identified with that person through a process with ourselves and with whoever is supporting that person. Another key value of ours is around person-centeredness. So it's essential that social farming remains person-centred in order to deliver for the participant that comes out to your farm. We always respect the choice and give dignity and respect to each participant that comes out to the farm. It's designed to complement existing services. We're not seeking to replace existing, say, day services or other professional services that anybody might be accessing, but rather to complement those and as an add-on to those services. It's recognising, I suppose, a function of the farm in a community that, you know, it has a social function and it's giving a different role and a different value to a farm within the community. And another key value of ours is to respect the farmer's role and skills, and our farmers are paid for their time. So that's really important for us. We believe if somebody is giving their time and, you know, giving of themselves and delivering something that's of good quality to people, then their time should be respected and their costs should be covered for that. A little bit about the development of social farming in Ireland. I suppose there's a long history there of, I suppose, a fledgling development of social farming. We were looking at Europe, and when I say we, I wasn't involved at that time, back as far as 2005, 2006, when some people from UCD became involved with other European projects where social farming was quite strong in other countries, for example, the Netherlands. So there were projects, there was state-of-the-art research done, there was various reports produced about social farming and what existed in various places and what the development needs were for it. Now there's a long thread of involvement right up to today there, you can see from UCD. So we have actually it originated in the Department of Agriculture in UCD. So UCD have been involved through Dr. Jim Kinsella and Dr. Deirdre O'Connor. Both of them were involved from the very, very early days, and both of them still advise the project and are still involved in research and developmental activity within Social Farming Ireland. Number of European research pieces happened. Then there was a community of practice established, which were a group of volunteers basically looking to see how they could establish social farming in Ireland. Some of them were drawn from local development companies. One was based in Leitrim Development Company. He had a keen interest in it, and he has a family member with a disability, so he was very active in disability advocacy. So they partnered up then with Queen's University and with a number of people from the HSE as well, and that kind of formed the community of practice, and some people from some of the disability organisations. It's back to the pre-2008 really. So between that period of time, 2008 to 2011, they were applying for various pots of funding to see could they get some staff on the ground to develop social farming. That happened in 2011 via an Interreg fund, which was a cross-border fund. And hence the border counties became the initial place where the social farming as it's seen now in Ireland initially developed. From that project then, which was a huge success, finished up in 2014, Department of Agriculture in Ireland saw that, okay, this is a significant success, there's something here, there's something that needs to be developed and it needs to be funded further. So since 2014, late 2014, 2015, the Department of Agriculture, both in Ireland and Northern Ireland, came on board and funded the development of social farming and have continued to fund it since then. So I suppose every 5 years or so we would have to tender for the programme, I guess, and the work that we do is funded by the Department of Agriculture. So I suppose we provide a lot of support and a lot of development work and training, etc., for all the farmers around the country. So we're in the second round of 5-year cycles at the moment. Actually, our 5th year of the current cycle will be next year. So we will be moving on and progressing from that in 2025. So we're looking forward to different challenges next year. That's a little bit of the history. So who we are, I suppose, is important to know as well. We've talked about Leitrim Development Company, and I suppose after the initial cross-border project, a good few other development companies around the country were interested in social farming and came to us to do presentations, to do talks with them, etc. And were keen to see could they start it in their areas. So as part of our tendering process, we spoke to all of those. A lot were interested, and eventually that whittled down to 3 local development companies that were keenly interested in moving forward with social farming, and that was West Limerick Resources, and they now look after the southwest region, which most of sorry, I shouldn't say most of you are in, but certainly Shirley is in that region, and that consists of Cork, Kerry, North, Tipperary and Clare. Southeast then is all the southeast counties: Waterford, Wexford, Carlow, Kilkenny and South Tipperary. Then you move to the west, it's Galway, Mayo, Roscommon, and then Leitrim Development Company, I suppose, kind of being based in the Midlands. We look after all the counties, 14 counties from Donegal down to Wicklow and across to Laois, Offaly, etc. So we're kind of positioned, I suppose, in the middle of all those counties, so that we have 2 regional development officers, and we have 1 regional development officer, not the other 3 regional hubs that we have set up. So what our network does, part of what we do is recruiting new farmers, disseminating in the agriculture and rural development sectors. So as part of what we're doing at the moment here this evening, training, we provide training for all farmers to get them ready for practice. We disseminate in the health and social care sector as well. So there's 2 distinct, I suppose, parts of our work. One is in the agriculture sector and the other is in the health and social care sector. So in some ways we say we're developing a product and we're also developing the demand for that product at the same time. So we have to work on both sides of the coin. So our work with health and social care service involves doing some research, presenting that research on the impact social farming can have for participants and how it can improve their lives, working with organisations within the HSE, for example, mental health services, youth services, disability services. They're provided through a lot of Section 39 organisations. There's a huge cohort of organisations that we work with, and we don't close the door, which is probably our weakness, to anybody. Anybody can access social farming, and that's our aim, is that it is open to anybody who feels they need the support and might benefit from it. Building relationships with support services is really important for us, because it's through those relationships that we have paved commissioning pathways and leveraged funding for placements. So while we are funded through the Department of Agriculture, and we have a small pot of what we call sample funding for first timers, I suppose, first time organisations and first time farmers, so people find their feet a little bit with social farming, they get to understand how it works and the impact it can have, and I suppose the nuts and bolts of how social farming works. But once that sample fund is expired, we will be looking for the organisation that's supporting the person, or the person themselves in a very, very small number of cases, to cover the cost of that placement. Obviously, reporting to all the funders and ensuring the governance is right, putting in place systems and processes so that social farming operates in a safe environment and everybody is protected. That's part of the governance that we provide. Obviously, health and social care services, initially when we started this, we were told you'll never get farmers interested. Health and social care providers are going to deem it too risky. You'll never get insurance, all those wonderful things. But needless to say, they're all things of the past at this point in time. So, we have worked through all those issues and paved a pathway that people can access ordinary farms in Ireland. The other important arm to what we do, and we have a policy and research officer in social farming who constantly reviews what we're doing, provides case studies and reports, provides business cases, etc., and seeks to influence public policy as well around social farming through health and social care, rural development and agriculture, obviously. So that's another very, very important arm to what we do. That policy research, I seem to have a little dot on my screen, but maybe you don't see it, I don't know. The research is aimed at services and people who are operating in the policy arena. We've produced 7 major reports, and we would put in submissions, for example, for the programme for government. We would be lobbying for funding for social farming on an ongoing basis with various sectors and various government departments. Producing short guides to social farming. We have conducted a number of conferences, input into funding applications. We do a lot of media work and networking, and as I said before, tracking and contributing to policy across multiple areas. So our farmers and farmer development, and we might finish off at the end with the video. Maybe we'll just scoot through some of the information first, and I suppose we'll talk a little bit about farming key features. Now, there's 2 aspects to key features and key things that we seek. Some are around the farm and some are around the farmer. So we have 2 elements here, and they're both equally important. The farmer is probably more important, to be perfectly honest about it, but the farm environment usually reflects the farmer anyway. So we do need that farm environment to have certain characteristics as well. We work with active, ordinary family farms. It must be operating as a farm, have the capacity to provide meaningful activities, and that means farm-based activities. As I say, services are not going to commission or pay for something that they already have in a day centre. They want to experience, and participants want to experience, ordinary farm work. Can it provide activities to match client ability? So I suppose there's flexibility in a range of activities, from things that are very basic to right up to things that can be more challenging for different participants. An open and inclusive environment. It's accessible, and the farmer and the farm environment is safe, and there's good safety practices on that farm. Has the farm got capacity for progression? Is a nice little extra. Sometimes a couple of people have ended up being employed on the farms that they actually had the social farming placements on. So the farmer then, the key characteristics, provides dignity and respect to all is probably the number 1. So having that inclusive nature is really important. Having empathy. Probably the favourite one from my perspective is having time and patience. You must set aside your day for your participants. There's no 2 ways about it. You cannot expect to get a day's work done. That's just not what social farming is. I'm not saying it never happens. It can, and it does, and it can surprise you sometimes, but it's not an expectation. So you do need to set aside that time. Being a good communicator is really helpful, that you're able to give clear instructions, break tasks down into small steps and slow down. And that's why I say the time is really, really important, because very often you need to slow down massively to your participants' pace. And that's a key to social farming. Your values include relationships are important, family, neighbours, friends. Sharing your home and sharing your farm with people is important to you, that you're welcoming, hospitable. You're interested in your community and you're interested in inclusion, flexible and open. You have skills to share. That I always tell a funny story about that one, because one of my farmers, when I visited his farm, we were asking, have you any additional skills? Because sometimes we discover very interesting things about people having additional skills. And this particular farmer folded his arms and he says, well, Helen, I talk. That's my additional skill. So we got a good laugh out of that. And he's a great communicator, but not all of our farmers are huge talkers, but they're good communicators at the same time. So skills vary hugely, from people having some very interesting skills to offer on farms to very basic things like being friendly and warm and being a good communicator. So we're not looking for somebody to build the next rocket ship to Mars or anything like that. Having an interest in diversification, I suppose, that almost would happen naturally with something like social farming, because you're probably not going to be interested in something like social farming unless you have a natural interest in using your farm in a different way. So that's part of it. There's a process involved in becoming a social farmer. So this farmer registration on our website is the first step. Because that's how we communicate with you. That's how we let you know what's happening. That's how you tell us why you want to get involved. That's how we exchange information, and it is electronically, and we need our little bit of GDPR out of the way before we can do anything else. The next step then, it will either be a farm visit by your SOFI regional officer, regional development officer, or training. It could be one or either, could be first, but both steps will happen. Then we get into, after you've had your training and after you've had your farm visit by the regional officer, we get into our governance of vetting, reference checking, ensuring that you have completed the add-on pieces of training that are provided externally through the HSE, etc. Then you're starting to map out your farm profile and tell us all about yourself, like your shop window for what you're doing. And then we move into the process of trying to get participants for your farm and into the matching of participants to you and your farm. So that's a little snapshot of that. The training, there's about 25, 30 hours of training altogether. This is what this is made up of. So I suppose it's the first 3 sessions there online are the introduction and background, health and safety, and mental health awareness. Also online is safeguarding and children's first, and they're delivered through the HSE website. Those are state, I suppose, provided by the state. In person, then we have disability awareness that's delivered by a person with a disability. So it's it really takes people into the space of supporting somebody with challenges. We do framework for practice, which is really around the nuts and bolts of what you need to have in place, the various memos of understanding, the planning that goes into place for each placement. We also do on-farm peer learning, where you get to visit another farm. And if that farm isn't like your farm, we aim to please by bringing 2 other farmers along on the day that hopefully you will have something in common with, because everybody's farm is different. We try to mix it with smaller farmers, medium-sized farmers, and maybe a large farm as well. Sometimes we do training on some of the larger farms simply because they can accommodate bigger numbers. So we do try to demonstrate that, you know what, it's not, everybody's farm is not the same. We also have an on-farm health and safety mentoring. So our health and safety consultant also goes out, as well as our regional officer. They also go out to your farm to walk your farm with you, to help you prepare a pictorial risk assessment of your farm, and to answer any questions and provide you with support and guidance on health and safety on your farm. There's a reflection and development session, and we usually deliver that through annual sessions where we have get-togethers with our farmers. They reflect on their practice, particularly in the first year, and they hear from other experienced farmers about how they overcome various issues that might crop up. Now I better keep scooting through. I think I'm tipping towards my time limit. Is there a typical farm? No, there isn't. Our smallest farm was 1 acre, and that was a grower just outside Westport. Very small farm, but what he had to offer was a particular offering. Didn't suit everybody, but there were a cohort of people there that were really interested in accessing his farm. Our largest farm is probably in excess of 400 acres and is a very large dairy farm, and they have been hosting participants for a number of years on and off. As I say, the activities range from horticulture, mixed farms, equine, dairy, all sorts of things, woodland. We're seeing a lot of I suppose biodiversity and organic farmers in our network as well. Qualities, characteristics of the farmer are really a key part of it. And as you can see, we have farms from Malin to Bantry. I don't say Malin to Mizen because we don't have one in Mizen. So Bantry will have to do for us for now. Being person-centred is hugely important for us in social farming. Again, these are just an example of some of the activities that might happen on farms. And we do encourage our farmers to get off farm as well with their participants. The benefits for participants, 4 key areas of benefit: mental health, social connection, education and skills, and physical health and well-being. This is an array of people that have accessed social farming that we feel benefited from social farming. So, for example, people with disabilities engaging with animals and, you know, getting a hands-on experience is hugely valuable. And we had older people with Alzheimer's, again, reconnecting with nature and connecting with the local community in some instances. We had young people from the Garda Youth Diversion Programme, somebody from a homeless service that accessed social farming. We had 2 people who were Syrian refugees who accessed social farming. So, you know, there were benefits all around for all of those people. Meaningful activities, very important, and potential outcomes for people. They can learn skills, education. We had some young people whose placement started at 7 o'clock in the morning on a dairy farm because they wanted to learn how to milk cows, and that was their objective. There were young people that were early school leavers and needed to find a pathway. So that was what happened in their social farming experience. Sometimes people look at food production, even cooking and learning how to make something other than maybe a frozen pizza from the local centre store can be an achievement for some people. Chopping wood, making bird boxes, making hen house, all sorts of things, milking a cow, maybe even hand milking or a goat or something like that. Social connections are huge. We encourage our farmers to bring their participants off farm as well, get other family members perhaps involved. A neighbour pops in. Then, you know, people might ask, oh, well, is anybody else allowed to come to the farm? Of course. People that you're familiar with and that you trust and that you have a relationship with, we encourage all of that. And that social connection and that trip, for example, to the ag store, the local ag store, can be hugely valuable for a lot of people. Physical health, well, what can I say about that? There's physical work on a farm. I think I mentioned last night that we had a presentation last night as well, and I mentioned about, you know, somebody can find themselves walking a kilometre to check on stock, and a farmer later laughed at me because he said they walk a lot more than a kilometre on my farm. So and it's not labelled exercise, and people are not set a target of X number of steps, but somehow they achieve those targets without nearly realizing that it's exercise, I suppose. These are some of the outcomes, I suppose, that participants have gained from social farming: improved physical fitness, improved social inclusion outcomes, getting to know a wider network of people, building their confidence, their self-esteem, their communication skills, you know, wider personal network. Some have progressed to employment. Good few have progressed onto other training courses that they have identified things that they want to achieve in their lives and that they want to get involved in. Simply building resilience and good health, fresh air, being out there, maybe eating farm produce, you know, learning about how to take care of themselves in a better, more sustainable way. Building routine and a sense of purpose is huge, and obviously educational outcomes can be fantastic on farms. So for the farmer, huge sense of, and I'm sure Shirley will talk a little bit about this, a huge sense of satisfaction, contributing to your local community, contributing to the well-being of others, contributing positively to society, using their farm in a different way. There's huge benefits in it. It can often be a spur to further diversification. There's an additional farm income. You're not going to make your first million off social farming, but it can be part of it, ensuring more sustainability for your farm and perhaps keeping you on your farm an extra day every week. Finding support needs, finding solutions to people's support needs locally is hugely important as well. We don't like people travelling any more than 20 minutes, half an hour to a farm. Sometimes it is a little bit more because we don't have enough farms, and that's why I'm talking to you guys tonight. So we have a very interesting cohort of farmers. We have a much higher proportion of female farmers than the national average. We have a much higher proportion of organic farmers than the national average. Several of our farmers have been farming for nature ambassadors, and they're involved in lots of biodiversity issues, initiatives and education initiatives. Some of them have universities coming to them for various research reasons. Schools come to them for the interest that they have in the environment, etc. A lot of our farmers have their own woodland initiatives on their farm also. So yeah, more than the average in a lot of those cases. So what are the nuts and bolts of it? Participants usually go one day per week. On average, placement block might be for 12 weeks. we like to stop after the 12 weeks to see, are people still getting something out of it, or do they want to move on to something else? Is there still funding in place? And for some people, it's a long-term solution in their life and a long-term support. So they might go for several consecutive years, a day a week to social farming. Small number of instances, you might have more than one day a week. The average is 4 probably hours per day, number of people between 1 and 4, so it's small numbers of people. This is not a crowd of people visiting a pet farm. Very relational, what you do with your participants on social farming. The trained social farmer works alongside the participants all of the time. There's always an induction day, and you as farmers as well have a choice in who comes to your farm. And I suppose social farming is very social, and there's always plenty of time for tea and chat. So on that note, there's always the kitchen table, and the kitchen table, as we say, is probably the most important piece of equipment that you need for social farming. So on that note, I might stop and maybe address maybe some questions if there's any, or comments or anything like that before maybe we hear from the horse's mouth from Shirley, who's actually doing this on the ground.
Thanks for that presentation, Helen. It was there was just so much information there. It's so fascinating and wonderful to hear about it. I suppose I have a few questions if you don't mind to get started.
Absolutely.
For you, what do you find to be the biggest barriers to recruiting, farmers? Or going forward, like it's wonderful, like you can come on a platform with Dairy Women Ireland, and I think we see ourselves very similar to you. We're around the kitchen table. It's kind of there's a focus on being social, and that's a lot of our, where we come from as well in Dairy Women Ireland. But from you, I suppose, what are the barriers to you for getting farmers on board, I suppose.
Yeah. I suppose the barrier really, again, is my favorite one that I like people to have, and it's time. And I think a lot of people are challenged for time. And I suppose the little bit which is becoming certainly less of an issue is the uncertainty around social farming. And in the early years, have had the mountain to climb of convincing health and social care services that this was something of value and something worth paying for. That landscape has changed a lot, particularly over the last 2 years. We have kind of reached particular tipping points for nearly all of our placements. Like we delivered we've 150 farms nationally, and we delivered 10,000 placement days in 2024. And 94% of those were fully commissioned by health and social care services. So we actually, in a lot of areas, we've more demand for placements on farms than we have farms. And it's trying to match those two is a big challenge for us, because there can be a bit of a wait time. It's not like where you get a job and you have an income straight away. It can take time to establish that, and it can take a year to 2 years before it stabilizes and that you have regular participants that are coming to your farm. So that's probably the biggest challenge that we have.
It's a phenomenal achievement. I mean, 150 farms and 10,000, participant events in a year is it's massive, and was taking an awful lot of organizing, but
It does, yeah. It's
yeah,
10,000 placement days, about 1,000 participants altogether. So,
yeah,
but it takes a lot of organising, and there's a lot of hand holding, and a lot of work goes on in the background. As we say, we're like the ducks kind of paddling away underneath and trying to be nice and calm on the surface. But we're a
I
very
can
small
imagine.
team. As I say, there's just 5 regional officers and myself and an administrator. We have a program manager as well, but obviously he's part-time, he's over a number of other programs. So but full-time on the program there's just 7 of us. So it's a very small team for a national program.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I wonder if people have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box, and then we can either come back to them, or if you want to do them now, that's great too. I suppose other questions I had in relation to it is, I suppose the first protocol is to get in touch online. How long would you say that the training takes to take place? It seemed like quite an intensive training program there with 9 separate, instances of learning
There
between
are,
in
yeah.
person and Zoom. It's a massive commitment. So do people
It's
get
a
to test
commitment for
that?
farmers. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It is. And we don't underestimate that. And again, that's part of why, we want our farmers to be compensated for that through activity subsequently. And the training is free at the moment as well. So that's another positive, I suppose. There's 3 sessions online. So that takes a day and a half, a morning, an afternoon, and a following morning. And actually, we're delivering training next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, and there is still a few spots available on that. It's our second session. We delivered the first session the week before last, and it was oversubscribed, so this one is an added on session. We will be delivering the next round for that group of people at the end of January, and that'll be a 1-day session, and that'll be with myself and with our disability awareness trainer. And then after that, we deliver peer learning later on when the sheds are empty on farms. So that tends to be in May, around that kind of time. And then you have to, I suppose, sit down some night and get through your HSE safeguarding and sessions yourself. So that's roughly, I suppose, 3 days, I would say, altogether is your commitment time-wise.
Yeah, very good. So I just have a question here. So what people and organizations utilize social farming, i.e. Those with disabilities, and what other areas?
Yeah, so absolutely, people with disabilities. We've had, for example, young people in the care system coming supported by TUSLA, for example. We have people from mental health services, generally people who are in the community, but some people who are in long-term residential care also would be accessing social farming. And particularly in the case of mental health services, that is fully commissioned by the HSE. We've had young people who are completing the Leave Cert Apply programme in schools access social farming. We have had asylum seekers and refugees. We would have had young people in the justice system accessing social farming. There's another group, long-term unemployed, which actually can span a number of sectors. Sometimes you find somebody might be in receiving support in mental health services and also maybe be supported through a long-term unemployed programme, for example, in one of the local development companies or something like that. So, they might fall under 2 umbrellas, but another sector now that I'm forgetting, but it'll come back to me.
So a very broad range there. Yeah.
It's basically anybody who might need support, really, and is identified as needing support and that feels social farming might benefit them.
Yeah. So there's another question here. So how do participants get to the farm? And I suppose additionally to that, I was also wondering, is it just the farmer and the participant, or is each case, I suppose, a case by case? Maybe some people might need extra assistance, or what do you find?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're getting into my favourite answer now, as well as having a favourite trait of time. My favourite answer and Shirley smiling. It depends. And that
Okay.
it depends is because we're person-centred. Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't set rules and regulations that people have to fit into. Rather, we try to respond to what that person needs. So that is done through a planning process, and we put in place a support plan for each participant that comes out to your farm. And there's a lot of work that goes on before anybody comes out to your farm. So we identify how they're going to get to the farm, and that, trust me, is probably another one of the significant challenges. But however, I can think of an instance that somebody hasn't attended a farm because of transportation. We find solutions. Lots of our farmers will pick participants up at various points. If it's not from a public bus stop, it might be from a pickup point, it might be from a residential setting where they're living, or lots of different solutions are found. So yeah, the participants, we find lots of different ways of supporting that, and in some cases a lot of our contracts as well with the HSE would include an allowance for transport. So some participants would drive themselves also to social farms, and some participants might need the taxi and they might need the door-to-door support. Participants don't always come with support workers. they do and they don't. It depends on what their needs are. Sometimes they
Mhm.
come with a support worker for the first maybe 3, 4 sessions, and that support worker might drop back into the background as that person's confidence grows on the farm, and the farmer also becomes more comfortable with the participant, and they get to know each other, and the farmer gets to know the support needs of that person. So it depends. See
It's
some
very individualized.
very individualized, yeah, which makes it, I suppose, intense in a way, but that's what really achieves the really, really good outcomes for people.
Yes, yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. And in terms of timing, then for the farmer, can the host farmer pick a suitable time for them, or is it kind of, you work it out between you,
Yeah,
or
we
yeah,
do work it out, and I suppose not many placements happen on a Saturday, but there are
okay,
a couple. But usually it's, say 30:30 until 3:30. That would be a kind of a general run of the average. Now, as I say, that can vary depending on the individual. Some people only attend a half day and might be there at 10 o'clock and might be gone by 12:30. That depends on their capacity. Um, so as we say, we try to keep it person centered and to put in place a plan and it's usually about between 1 and 4 people. There isn't a minimum number of hours, but funding can be an issue then. If you're only having somebody for 2 hours, there might be a reduced rate put in place and things like that. So it is bespoke, I suppose. The type of payment, I suppose I'm seeing some of the questions here. The type of payment that's involved is probably in the region anywhere between 40 and €120 per day. And actually I should say 40 and not €240 per day. We've had participants come on a one-to-one placement and the payment be as low as €40, but it's probably more in the early days than it is now. The normal would be probably between 80 and 240 per day, depending on the participant and how many people.
okay. So it depends on how many participants and how many hours they stay. So it's kind of a per hour per participant, is it?
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, it's a daily rate normally, but it might get pared back a little bit if a participant is going for a shorter period of time.
Okay. Um, does farmer have to have a say at the time of the year that the placement takes place? Obviously, spring is a lovely time on the farm, but it's also very busy.
Yeah. Absolutely. You can open your farm for whatever length of time you want. And some people have times of the year when maybe they go visiting family and they have their own things they want to do at particular times of the year and it just doesn't suit them to do social farming. So you don't need to do it all year round. But you make those choices, once you get a little bit of experience. I think it's probably a good time maybe to get Shirley involved here and she can talk about
Yeah.
some of these things. I feel I'm hogging the screen a little bit here, and I think she will
No, that's
answer some of these
brilliant. Yeah.
questions from her perspective as well. So
Absolutely, yeah, it's a great time. I think if you're happy, Shirley, to tell us your story and maybe a little bit
Yeah,
about your background and
yeah,
where you are and how you found Social Farming Ireland and yeah, what it
yeah,
involves and what it means to you. That would be great. And
yeah,
I know we have a little slideshow
absolutely.
to go on the back in the background there, which was
Yeah,
created by Shirley for our members to have a look at
yeah.
our experience.
Um, the screen show that's going in the background. There was this group that were with me. They had a presentation last week, so they had this prepared for it. So I kind of said, okay, pass it on to me, and I said it could be used. Um, you can just see smiles in the faces, which is to me a massive part of it. But anyhow, I'll start with this going back to the start. So my name is Shirley Bateman. We're farming in Crookstown. We're just off the Cork Killarney Road. We're milking about 600 cows. Um, I heard about social farming originally in about 2020. My daughter, who was training as an OT, was doing a placement in Roscommon, and so she heard about it and kind of just sent me on an email kind of saying, I think you might be interested in this. My youngest at that stage was 11. So I was kind of beginning to say, okay, I needed to start finding something else to be doing. Um, so we decided to start to do our training, and we had our first induction day. Actually, I was looking it up today, and it's pretty well 3 years ago. now at this stage. And that guy that came on that induction day actually was here last Tuesday. He has continued to come, pretty well. Um, no, not consistently, but he has been coming since with that length of time. And he actually, one of the questions that was in there, he has severe special needs, and he's brought on the bus, and he has two social care workers with him because he is quite severe special needs. I've had two other groups that have come to me. The group that are in the slideshow have just started their second placement, so they'll be coming for they'll be coming again now in the spring, and so they'll be doing all their jobs. Now, as Helen was saying, a variety of jobs, and they come and they feed calves milk, give ration to calves, cows, whatever. We do quite a bit of planting, power washing, scraping, things that were down here at the house that needed to go up the yard. We put them in a wheelbarrow and take them up the yard. We've brought animals in, out, firewood to the house, lots of baking, as you can see there. I got hens before the summer, which have been a huge hit with everybody that has come. They absolutely love them. They kind of help me clean out the house, clean out the hen coop, collect the eggs. As I think you can probably see from the slideshow, the smiles on their face. And to be honest, I'm not sure who gets more out of it, whether it's them or me. Being very honest, it's fantastic. And you can just see, they seem to just develop, a little bit of independence around the place, which is fabulous. I honestly don't think we realize, we have to stop and think to realize how much you can get out of being around animals, being in the country, out in the fresh air. We really, there's a lot of benefits there. And the big thing I would have heard from the social care workers that would come with the gang, lads that would kind of, normally it's a case of they'd start doing something, and after a couple of weeks they're bored. Whereas some of the guys, in this group now, one of the guys particularly, there was one day he was quite sick. He arrived at the day centre and he was quite under the weather, but he had his wellies and he was coming social farming. Nobody was telling him otherwise. And like, I've seen some of the social care workers that would with them be with them. Their faces, they can't believe these people they've been working with for so long. They cannot believe what they end up doing on farm. It's just, it's great. People have come back from holidays because social farming is on, and they want to, they just don't want to miss it. One day it was one of the girls, I think it was one of the last days, and they had been feeding the calves when they were here, and I heard her here saying to the calves, she was very soft spoken, and heard her saying to the calves, "I'm going to miss ye." I was just kind of, okay. It was just brilliant, absolutely amazing. I suppose we had a doubt when we were training, particularly Michael, my husband. He was very much saying, how are we going to have enough jobs for them? We really, we're based around milking our cows, and our heifers are contract reared. Our calves disappear. Once you get to July, they go to the contract rearer. But I think, they love doing the same jobs because they grow in confidence. As weeks go on, they grow in confidence with the jobs they're doing. So it doesn't actually matter if they're doing the same job week after week, but you can see the progress. And I suppose for me, one of the big things I've learned is that like you have to let them do the things for themselves. It's very easy to kind of say if they look like they're struggling carrying a bucket or something, it's very easy to say, oh, I'll help you. And I got pulled one day and kind of said, no, let them do it themselves. And that was probably the biggest education to me, because so many people, I suppose people with disabilities, so many people will do things for them because they presume they can't do it. Whereas I think, you have to learn to do the opposite and let them kind of do things for themselves. So yeah, I think that's kind of what I've written down. But I would say if anybody felt they had the time or the energy or the interest in doing it, the rewards are huge. It's absolutely amazing to be involved in.
Thank you so much, Shirley, for that and for sharing your insights and your story. And picture tells 1,000 words, and that slideshow was lovely. And you could really see the benefits that the participants
Yeah,
were getting from being on your farm and being around your family. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like you're empowering them, to
yeah,
to do work for themselves, and that's a really
yeah.
good gift that you can give.
Mm.
And probably for you, it wouldn't even be about the money. It's about the experience of, of having them on the farm. And I think we discussed that earlier, that you get so much more out of it than
Absolutely.
but I
Yeah,
suppose that's an absolute bonus that you get paid for your time as well.
totally.
Yeah. Would you find, Shirley, that you'd have tasks set aside for them? Would that work well for you, or
Yeah.
how would you organize yourself?
Um, like one of the jobs we did quite a bit now that with the last crowd that were here, um, we had firewood that was in kind of an outhouse. So literally, you take a wheelbarrow down, we collect the firewood in one house and bring it up here to our own house. And the progress, even one of them, the first week she went down and she was kind of struggling to pick up the firewood to put it in, and I think probably she put about 5 sticks into the wheelbarrow. And the last time she was here, she actually had it full. It was nearly a case of, okay, Nancy, I think you can stop now because it's going to be too full. Even that, it seems like a small progression, but it was actually huge.
Mhm.
It was actually huge. And then when they came up, one of the lads wouldn't have been a huge fan of the hens. And so the social care worker was kind of, oh yeah, where's he gone? He was gone around and he had actually emptied the sticks all by himself. Nobody had said it. And he would never do anything of his own, you know,
So using his
without
own
somebody telling
initiative.
it. He used his own initiative. He went and he emptied the sticks, and he did exactly the same thing the following week.
Wow. Isn't that fantastic?
And it's a very small thing,
Yeah.
but it was huge. It was absolutely huge.
And in terms of joining Social Farming Ireland, you said initially it was sparked by your daughter having a placement in Roscommon. How did that
Mm.
progress? Is it just you that are involved mainly, Shirley, or how did that work for you in the farm?
It
Yeah.
it would be me that would be involved mainly,
Yeah.
really. Mike, when they're here, he will generally, kind of come over if he's around. He'll generally come over and have a chat. And one of the lads, absolutely just is mad about men. And anytime he sees Mike around, it's a case of, oh, hello, bye, how are you? He loves, it's a big bonus for him when he sees any of the lads around. The huge bonus. So sometimes we would work with whatever the lads are doing. Depends on what's happening. Do you
We
know?
find that sometimes too, you'll have one person on the farm, and quite often it's the female on the farm will come and do the
Mm,
training. And next year you'd find Mike maybe, or whoever, I can't recall whether Mike did it or not anyway, as it's
You
not.
did. Yeah.
But you'd often find where the other person on the farm, whether it's a brother or a son or a daughter or a husband or a partner or whatever, they'll decide, well, actually, I want to do the training as well because I want to be involved in what's going on. And that's
Yeah.
very common for us as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a question here for Shirley. Do you seem to have quite a crowd of the voters? Do you tend to get groups rather than individuals?
Well, I have the guy who's been coming for the long period of time. So he's just one on his own. I've kind of had three or four in the groups, um, which, you know, is very, very, very doable because the social care worker always there as well. So even if one person, like we've had one guy now who'd be much more able, so he would have been doing a lot of power hosing. So she'd stay with him, and the other two would be with me. Um, so you know, there's always somebody. There's always one of us around with them. But yeah, three or four is the max I've had.
Yeah, that
I
would
bet
be
you
the
the day
norm.
flies.
Oh, to be honest, like I actually only have them for 2 hours, so it's very short.
Yeah,
It's very, very short.
Yeah. And that
Um,
varies hugely right across the country. And I suppose
yeah,
Shirley's experience is probably pretty much with the Brothers of Charity, with the disability service.
yeah,
And like some of our farmers would have very different and varied experiences. And
yeah,
I was saying earlier, some farmers have participants coming early in the morning, maybe for a few hours and things like that. So, you know,
mm,
very, very different experiences and very
yeah,
much responding to what the people want. And the particular
yeah,
group of people that come to Shirley's farm are from Brothers of Charity.
yeah,
Probably you do it 1 to 2 days every week, is that's probably your
yeah.
norm.
Yeah, yeah. In general, there's a couple of weeks I did two days in the week, or two sets in the week. But in general, kind of once a week now at the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
So it works very, very well. You can fit it in around everything, which I find is massively important for me. My youngest is 15, but he's got a wide range of needs, so he kind of demands a little bit of time every now and again. So it's interesting.
It's good that you can organize it around your time, isn't it? But fantastic.
Yeah,
I mean, that's once a
And the
week, every week.
the farmer absolutely has a say in who comes to their farm. You know, this is your
usually.
farm.
Yeah,
Absolutely. There's nobody forced on anybody. There's an induction day and nothing goes ahead until both parties agree that they want to. You know,
mm,
somebody might come up to the farm that you just feel, you know, there's something there that you're not able to support that person, and vice versa. Participants
yeah,
feel, I'm not clicking with that farmer, it's not going to work. And sometimes people try it, very rarely try it out and maybe drop off after a couple of weeks because maybe it's not working for one or either party.
yeah.
So the choices are there for the farmer, and that's a very important part of what we do too.
So I just wonder if
Actually,
there's any more questions. The group, if you want, you can put your hand up or write them in. But
one
I
comment I actually had, Helen was on about disability awareness. That's done in the training, and it's actually an amazing training session. I think everybody should do it. It is just
Yeah.
the most amazing day.
Yeah.
Helen, if you want to
Yeah.
give,
do you want to tell us a bit about that, Helen? And
I
get
almost
involved?
can't kind of overstate it, or in a way it's delivered by somebody with a disability. To be honest, I struggled with disability awareness training for a good number of years on and off. There was nobody that was bad that delivered it for us. But once I got Peter Cairns delivering that training for us, we've never looked back since. I suppose he buys into what we're doing as well. He knows the values around what we're trying to do in social farming Ireland, and he fully supports it and gets what our farmers are trying to do. He's a Doe from the inner city originally, but he actually lives in Leitrim. And even though I'm from Leitrim as well myself, I didn't discover him until a few years, you know, down the line. But he has a disability himself, and let's just say he will challenge all of the things that you might think in your everyday life are acceptable. That's
Brilliant.
probably the only way I can put it, and without giving it all away, as they say. But it's really, really good training, and it really sets the scene. It's very much based around our values of inclusiveness, of breaking down barriers, of seeing person's ability, of seeing past what the stereotypes say, about seeing past the protection of people, and taking positive risks for people as well, allowing people to live. You had a picture up there, Shirley, of somebody climbing a gate, and we might be kind of looking at that and going, oh, but
Yeah.
and I had a very funny one last night, and when I had a good laugh today when I saw your photographs, because when we were presenting last night, we talk about progression and achieving outcomes for participants, and that's important. But the outcomes for some people are very small steps, so you know they're not something to kind of be daunted by or anything like that. But one of our farmers was saying he had a particular gate and they used to go through it every day, and he used to climb over it all the time, but he said it was tied with a rope, but didn't have a nice latch on it like it probably should have, and all the rest. But he said all of the participants bar one were happy to climb over the gate, and he said by the end of the 10 weeks, on the 10th day, that participant climbed over the gate, and he said it was such a huge sense of satisfaction for that person to actually have achieved the same thing that everybody else was doing,
Not everybody.
and not to be the one that was afraid to do that, and did it successfully, did it safely, did it independently, and it happened gradually over the weeks, so don't underestimate what you have on your farm. And all of our farmers are always afraid. I don't know how many times I've heard that, Charlie, and I don't I don't go down into too much detail with people on it, because I don't want to minimize what farmers do, by saying, oh, you'll be grand, it'll be fine. I always say, just think a little bit about the things you have and break them down into small tasks, and that is enough, and all of your farms would have enough. For some people, just the fact of being on the farm, walking on the farm, is an amazing experience for them. To go out and get wet, to walk on uneven ground, is an achievement for some people. So you don't realize how lucky you are, really, to live where you live and to have what you have access to. And I think as society is becoming more urbanized, I think social farming will only grow and broaden its reach. And I think, there certainly is an argument there in time, maybe before I retire out of this, I'd love to see it reaching towards the school curriculum. That it would be on the school curriculum for everybody to go to a social farm, spend some time on it, and stop and smell the roses a little bit. Is there another
I think
question?
just as you were saying that, Helen, about it being part of school, the same thought came to me, especially when you were explaining your training for the disability awareness. I mean, it is something that all of us could do, and something that could be rolled out in schools, as a priority. There's a few more questions. I don't know if you're happy. There's what can go wrong, I suppose. Maybe if something does go wrong, I suppose, how would you deal with that? Or, what is there a process?
There absolutely is, yeah. And I suppose we'll not go into a training session here, but you have a regional development officer, and they're probably your first port of call. Well, maybe your second port of call, because to be honest, if something goes wrong, it's the same as any other time on your farm. If something goes wrong, what are you going to do? You're going to ring 911 if it's very serious. You're going to get an ambulance, get some help. If to support people on the farm with you, then you have a safety net, I suppose, and you have some people with you. The other thing I just meant to say as well was quite a significant number of our farmers do social farming on their own. They don't have a second person on the farm, and I know quite a number of those actually host participants with no support workers, and some of them on a one-to-one basis with the young people as well. So obviously there's a period of where that's established, and everybody's reference checked and vetted, and you know, we do a lot of intensive work in the background, you know, making sure these things happen and that they happen safely and happen well. Things can go wrong, things do go wrong. People have had minor incidents on farms. People have spoken about things that the farmer would have needed to speak to a safeguarding person about, you know, and we deal with all those things on a case-by-case basis, and we're there to support people through that as well. And that's part of the reason why the Department of Agriculture are involved, is because we're in a position to provide that kind of support, and we have learned a huge amount from the 10, 12 years that we've been doing this. I'll never say we've seen everything, but we've seen a lot. So there's always some more to learn though.
Yeah, absolutely. Every day is a learning day, isn't it? There's a question here from Mary now. You've already touched on it. Where does all the money come for this amazing service? So I know you've said that the Department of Agriculture support you, but also you were explaining that the different services also would pay to have
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, they commission the services. So I suppose a significant amount of funding would come from government departments and the HSE. So, for example, we would have service level agreements with a number of mental health services across various regions. So they're all at different stages of development. Way back in probably before the current iteration of the programme, back in 2014 or 15, we secured our first service level agreement with mental health services in Sligo Leitrim. Subsequent to that, then it has expanded in an awful lot of areas where we have a contract with the HSE to deliver X number of days. We work very closely with the nursing teams, the OT teams, and the social care teams within mental health services to deliver that. We would have agreements then with the number of organisations like Brothers of Charity. St Joseph's Foundation would be another down in the southern region. A lot of organisations commission placements, some of them partly commission placements. Also in 2020, at the end of 2023, Minister Anne Rabbitte, actually, we had been lobbying the Minister for Disabilities for a very long time for a national fund for social farming, probably for 5-6 years or more. And that eventually came good when Minister Anne Rabbitte was in post, and she became a big believer in social farmer and saw for herself some of the outcomes that people had in their lives. So she put in place a national fund, and that has been very beneficial and drove social farming forward as well. You know, again, mental health services in Cork is another one of the ones that we're starting to scratch the iceberg there maybe a little bit, and you know, there's fantastic work being done there by a couple of people within mental health services, and we find champions and find people and build relationships. And yeah, unfortunately some of those relationships, like we had a very good relationship with Minister Rabbitte, and she's now lost her seat, so we're back to the drawing board again there, but hopefully we will be able to build on what we've already delivered and continue to get that fund as time goes on. So in a nutshell, most of the funding comes from, it's all government funded. At the end of the day, we would have used interim funding streams like Healthy Ireland, like the Lotto, like the SICAP programs that are run through the local development companies in every area in the country. So, you know, a little bit of planes, trains and automobiles, but the pathways are becoming a lot clearer and becoming a lot broader, and the funding streams are becoming more streamlined to certainly CHO areas at least anyway, which makes our life a little bit easier, that you're not applying for 5,000 here and 10,000 there, and you just get one contract maybe for 50,000, for 100,000 for placements. And essentially that money, that funding that we leverage from health and social care funds goes directly to the farmer. So we're processing that on behalf of the farmer and ensuring the governance and everything around that. So that's how it, I suppose, works in the background. And the Department of Agriculture provide the funding for our work and our programme. So it's a small fund every year. So we hope that needs to be increased as well, so we can do more.
Absolutely. You do absolutely fantastic work. I mean, I don't know how to round this off really. There's a couple of comments here that have come in, I suppose alluding to how wonderful both of you are. Surely you're a great advocate for social farming, which you absolutely are.
Yes.
And a comment from Mary. Thank you, Helen. What an organisation you and your team have created. Also, Shirley is one of life's givers and she is an amazing inspiration. And thank you for inspiring us all on this call tonight. And thank you, Helen. I mean, the work that's going on in the background. And I suppose another thing I've just, along the way, listening to your story is the importance of looking outside, on our farms and seeing what a special place it is and what we can offer to other people, that we have this world at our fingertips and it's there to be shared, I suppose, with everybody if that's possible. Our families get to enjoy it, but how wonderful that people in need can also get to enjoy that, and it's a wonderful service that you provide. We'll probably, Ellen said she had a video. Oh yeah.
I
Ellen,
did.
we can play that if you want
Reminding me.
before we go. Yeah, absolutely.
Let me see now. Bear with me for a sec.
Thanks, Anne-Marie.
We have we've an awful lot of videos on our YouTube channel. If you look up Social Farming Ireland videos, it'll bring up a whole spread of videos. We have, like this, for example, there's 4 videos there. And I wouldn't like to pick one of them, and they're more recent and they're across the Republic of Ireland. They're amateur videos and they talk about what happens on social farm. So there's 4 farmers, one from Limerick, one from Galway. Oh, I can't remember where the other 2 are from now. It's a few years ago now that we did them. But however, back when we did the pilot program, we got a professional videographer in to put together a number of films about social farming. They're about 5-6 minutes long, so I can show you the farmer one. It's probably the one that you relate to most, not that all of them are relatable anyway. The participant one is also extremely relatable, but I'd encourage you just look them up anyway, and they only take a few minutes, but we can share one anyway, definitely now. Short films on social farming. Need to skip that. Were you able to hear anything that time?
No,
No,
I don't think so.
that's
But,
fine. Okay.
yeah,
Look, I'll try the
you
share
said
and
it's
see
there.
how we go. So let's see.
There we go.
I heard about social farming first at an Irish
Can you hear?
Farmers Association meeting that I was at, and when I read a bit about it, I says this could be possibly something that might suit me and my wife Clodagh on our farm. A few years ago, I was reading the Farmers Journal and I came across an article about social farming entitled "Farmers With Care," and kind of grabbed my attention. Because growing up on the family farm here, we looked after my uncle for 25 years with an intellectual disability. And also shortly after he died, my father developed Alzheimer's and we looked after him on the farm. I am an occupational therapist by profession, and I work with people with learning disabilities, and I've worked with people with mental health issues. And I also love the farm. I just felt it would be lovely to combine the 2 loves of my life, which was farming and working with people who are less fortunate than ourselves. It's quite rewarding to see people to flourish and to come out of themselves, out of their shell. At the moment, we have 3 participants attending 1 day per week, and we first and foremost have the cup on tea and decide then what we're going to do, the activities we're going to do for the day. I look forward to my 3 guys coming on a Wednesday. I always am thinking, right, what project are we going to do today? I have to think about the weather and think, right, what can we do today if the weather isn't so favourable? We have an old orchard here, which we have significantly tidied up for the first year in a long time. We got some apples out of it. So there has been an end product for the participants. On this farm, I am building a cottage that has disabled facilities. And my long-term plan was that eventually I could let individuals, obviously with carers, to come and actually stay on the farm for weekends or week breaks.
It hasn't had a big disturbance at all in our family life at all. I have 4 children, and they love to see the social farmers. They're at school, but when they come home, they'll be excited to see them.
The participants that we had on the farm, we had 4 people, and they ranged in age from 64 down to in their 30s. So, and the kids really broke the barriers down, you know, for that first few months of the summer holidays till they went back to school, and really, I found it really part of the whole social farming thing is, but for me, it's that family inclusion that's very important.
All that experience has been very positive for myself, for the rest of my family. To see the farm with a bit of a buzz and a bit of energy every Thursday when the lads land on Thursday morning, there's a definite energy in the air and willingness to get on with stuff.
All these smaller jobs, all these things I wanted to do, I'm finding I'm progressively getting them done, because you have the guys there to do it and they're willing, you know, and we get involved then and we get jobs done. And so that has been a great thing for me, you know, and I feel like as if we're a team, you know, because on a Wednesday here, there's 4 of us here as a team, and that makes any work far better.
The experience so far has been very positive. I've noticed a big change with the boys since they came here first. And they've become much more trusting, and they seem to be very happy. They give us the opinion that they're very happy to come here.
We'll say one day there, a couple of weeks ago, I missed the Thursday, but like the lads would remind me that we're owed a day, you know, that we have to come out Thursday and Friday this week, you know, that we're owed a day. So it's great that, you know, that at least that I'm doing something right, you know, and it's great. From I first heard about social farming, and even the first few training sessions we had, I could see from the theory behind it that, yes, this is something that could work, it could be great. But participating in the project has taken that from theory to practice, and has made me realise that, yes, it's not just that it could work, but that it does work.
The original training was so fab, and the support, that you were never isolated. You were never ever on your own. You were just a phone call away from somebody that can help and put your mind at ease.
SOFAB really kind of guided us from a step-by-step process through all the various different aspects of what would be required of us to make this successful for everybody. So it's not just a case of, you know, a few meetings early on and, you know, you get your participants and you give them. It is an ongoing experience. It is an ongoing development for us.
We would love to continue being a social farm, opening our farm up. We can envisage this working for a lot of farms in the community, in the area. I mean, you don't need any particular skill or any, you know, it's just normal people, normal farmers.
Everybody has something to offer, and the participants have a tremendous lot to offer. And to see that their face, the smile on their face, and how positive they are about their activities, we're very happy that we have got involved, and we can contribute in some small way to people, you know, on our simple little holding here in Cavan.
That was part of our original project, and hence all the northern accents. So it was all the border counties that were involved. Another one playing in the background here.
Thank you very much, Helen,
when
for
I was
that.
16, I was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia.
It was a lovely way to round off the meeting. I hope you have loads of new recruits after today, recruited farmers, and
yeah,
as I mentioned.
And definitely, look, I would say talk to your neighbours, talk to your friends, just let people know that this type of thing is out there, that, you know, this is something that you can do on your farm and there is support there and you won't be on your own. So we're definitely interested in hearing from people all over the country. And I suppose particularly the kind of peri-urban areas, in some ways we have some more demand for placements than we have farms, etc. But yeah, we do our best to facilitate as many people as possible and move forward.
Lovely. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Helen, for your time this evening. And thank you as well, Shirley, for coming on board and telling us your story and how it works on your firm. So I suppose just to finish off, from Dairy Women Ireland, our next event will be on Zoom. And the date is January the 23rd. And we have a guest speaker of Chloe Desmond. And Chloe is a senior accountant with IFAC. And she will be going through succession planning. So for anybody interested in that, that will take place on the 23rd of January, and that is for members only. So the email will be linked out. But if you think of anybody that might be interested in joining, of course, encourage them to visit our lovely new website. So I suppose I'll round it off with that. Thank you so much. Thanks to Linnea in the background for looking after the IT as well. Yeah, it was lovely to meet you all.
And thanks very much to DWI for the opportunity. It's great organisation, great way to streamline information for people and provide them with quality information about the good things that are out there. So well done.
Thank you, Helen. Yeah, hope to see you in the future.
No doubt.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.